We're kicking off with Kenny Omega, who last month revealed that he would be taking an indefinite hiatus from wrestling due to diverticulitis, and the former AEW World Champion hasn't been seen since. Omega has yet to have surgery, as his health condition was deemed too risky to go under the knife immediately, and we now have a clearer picture about Omega's next steps in his recovery. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was said that the plan is to monitor Omega's condition for 7 weeks before making a decision on surgery, and for those 7 weeks, he'll receive no treatment. The hope is that the diverticulitis will fix itself in that time, or that his body will at least show signs of recovering naturally, and ideally, Omega will be able to avoid having surgery altogether. After those 7 weeks, a decision will be made about what's next, and of course, having surgery will increase his time spent recovering, and therefore, his time out of the ring. Kenny Omega's health situation remains uncertain, and fans await further updates, and we should hopefully have a much clearer picture of his future in mid-March. By the end of this month, Kazuchika Okada's New Japan contract will expire, and after completing some matches in February, he will become wrestling's hottest free agent. In a recent interview with Tokyo Sports, Okada disclosed the motivations behind his New Japan exit and said he could have continued to compete for New Japan issue-free if he wanted to. With that said, he expressed a desire to avoid losing his competitive edge and hunger, and Okada further explained that he didn't want to rest on his laurels and become complacent. Unsurprisingly, both WWE and AEW are interested in signing Okada, who has yet to make a final decision as to what's next in his professional wrestling career. During Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer shared insights into the ongoing negotiations and said that Okada is keeping his options open for the time being. Individuals close to Okada confirmed that he's not reached a decision, and while some in AEW are optimistic he'll be signed, others are more cautious. Over in WWE, there's hope and belief that they can secure, with one individual saying Okada may prioritize legacy, and WWE is the place to do that, even if it means a potentially lower salary. No matter where Okada goes, he is poised to earn well, but for the time being, the only person who has an inkling as to where he'll go next is Kazuchika Okada himself. Later today, WWE will share a ton of information about WWE 2K24, but in recent days, there's been a lot of teases about the new game. Many fans are wondering who will be the cover star of the new game, and judging by recent social media posts, it could be a certain American Nightmare. On Twitter, WWE Games created a social media buzz with a parody of Cody Rhodes' famous bucket list, which he shared after leaving WWE, but this new list had some of Rhodes' goals post-return. On the list included highlights for Rhodes, including winning the Rumble, beating Brock Lesnar, as well as aspirations yet to be fulfilled, including win the title and finish the story. Number 6 on the list of Rhodes' goals simply says WWE 2K24 cover superstar, so don't be surprised if Cody is emblazoned on every copy of the game once the title releases in the future. It was in March of 2022 that Big E suffered a broken neck, and while he would be able to avoid surgery, which would have delayed his in-ring return, the New Day member hasn't competed since. Now, nearly 2 years on, many worry that they've seen the last match of the fun-loving former WWE champion, who struggled to give an update on a return when he spoke to TMZ this week. He said, "I don't have a timeline, unfortunately, but thank you for asking. I just want to make a smart decision. I didn't start wrestling to end up in a wheelchair, so I just want to make sure I'm making the best decision for myself." Big E has previously said that life as a coach or commentator would be okay with him if he can never wrestle again, and has tried to remain positive in the face of this injury. The New Day star also worked as a scout during the SummerSlam 2023 tryouts, and what do you think is next for Big E? Let us know down in the comments. We've got news from AAA now, as the promotion has many big names under contract, and this past week, Alberto Del Rio made his return to the company. During AAA's Originist show this week, Conan and Vampiro had a segment which was interrupted by Del Rio, who made his shocking return to AAA to a huge applause. The former WWE champion will have been pleased to get this response, as he is a controversial name in wrestling to say the least, and had an extremely toxic relationship with Saraya. Del Rio's fall from grace is something fans know well, as after his WWE release, he would appear in smaller promotions and would even no-show an Impact Wrestling vs. Lucha Underground event. The last time fans saw Del Rio, the man who competed in multiple world title matches at WrestleMania, was wrestling in a high school gymnasium in a clear fall from grace. With AAA forging a working relationship with TNA, we can't rule out Del Rio appearing for that promotion, and we'll just have to wait and see what's next for the former superstar. Since returning, CM Punk has set his sights on Seth Rollins, but all plans for the pair risk being derailed because of the injury Rollins suffered on last week's show. Rollins won last week's match with Jinder Mahal, but suffered a torn MCL and partially torn meniscus, which could keep the World Heavyweight Champion from WrestleMania 40. This could be disastrous for Punk, who even before his WWE exit in 2014 had one simple goal: main event WrestleMania, a goal that has only grown stronger since last November's return. Rollins vs. Punk would have likely headlined Night 1 of WrestleMania 40, but with Rollins possibly out of the equation, Punk's chances of headlining drastically go down. Sure, Punk will be in a very important match at WrestleMania, but if this bout isn't for the World Heavyweight Championship, he's at risk of losing the coveted spot on the card to someone else. Perhaps Rhea Ripley and her impressive Women's World Championship reign will headline Night 1 instead, giving WWE another Women's WrestleMania main event to brag about in interviews. If Rollins isn't on the card, the most natural feud for Punk at WrestleMania 40 appears to be against whoever's holding the World Heavyweight title, which could be Damian Priest. Mr. Money in the Bank could cash in as soon as tonight and build towards the Judgment Day vs. CM Punk feud for Mania, though again, a WrestleMania main event spot isn't guaranteed then. Ultimately, tonight's Raw will give us a much clearer image as to what WrestleMania 40 will look like, but CM Punk is at risk of a WrestleMania main event spot slipping through his fingers once more. What we do know is that Punk and Cody Rhodes will come face-to-face tonight on Raw in what'll be an epic showdown between two of the favorites in the Men's Royal Rumble match. We don't know what exactly will be said tonight, though it's likely the Rumble will come up, but Cody knows exactly what he wants to get off his chest. On Twitter, Rhodes hyped up tonight's face-off with an image of himself and Punk and simply said, "I know what we should talk about." The go-home Raw before the Royal Rumble will be an exciting one, and see two of WWE's most popular stars meet, and we'll have to see what the two ex-AEW alum have to say tonight. After walking out of WWE in 2014, CM Punk joined the world of UFC, and while he'd lose both fights, his second loss was overturned when his opponent failed a drug test. Nevertheless, Punk's UFC career did not go as he'd hoped, and one person who is far from impressed by Punk's toughness is Ernest the Cat Miller. On the Spotlight podcast, Miller, a multiple-time karate champion who competed for WCW and now works as a karate trainer, gave his harsh take on the best in the world. He said, "I can look at someone and tell whether or not they can fight. When I looked at CM Punk fight, his real fight, I got 12-year-old kids who would knock CM Punk out. Make sure you write that. I think he's probably the worst fighter. He might be good for wrestling. I don't understand this business anymore. I don't understand how a guy can expose himself to be such a sorry fighter and then the company brings him back to talk badly like he could beat everybody." Miller questioned the decision to bring Punk back to wrestling after a lackluster performance in UFC and said it went against past standards when wrestlers had credibility in combat sports. Miller concluded by expressing disbelief that Punk, whom he deemed a subpar fighter, could command such a prominent role in wrestling as the one he enjoys today. Whether Miller likes it or not, CM Punk has returned to being a top star in wrestling even after his UFC fights, proof that in pro wrestling, legit toughness in combat sports isn't everything. On last week's SmackDown, Pete Dunne ditched his Butch persona to wrestle as the Bruiserweight once again, and teamed with Tyler Bate to defeat Pretty Deadly. After SmackDown, Dunne took to Twitter and shared a video with the caption "Big Chats," signaling a significant moment in the character development between himself and Bates. During the talk, Bate took the opportunity to delve into the history of the British strong-style duo, highlighting their selection by William Regal, and the talk led to a change in their dynamic. It's certainly exciting to witness Pete Dunne reclaim his name after nearly 2 years of being referred to as Butch, as fans are excited to see what the Bruiserweight can do on the main roster. Since arriving in AEW in 2019, Jon Moxley has unquestionably become one of the promotion's top stars, but that isn't enough for the multiple-time former world champion. In a conversation with comicbook.com, Moxley discussed his future goals as a performer heading into 2024 and his desire to elevate himself to an even higher level. He explained, "Even when you do good, a lot of times people get stuck where they are. I think I'm constantly boxed in and people want to categorize me and think of me in a certain way and place me at a certain level. And I'm not into that at all. And even if I'm making all that up in my head, that's fine, because then that just gives me more motivation. My entire life, usually the best motivations come from breaking out of whatever box somebody's trying to place me in, even if it's all just in my head. Moxley has had an eventful 2023, having participated in high-profile feuds against Hangman Adam Page and the Elite, as well as a program with Orange Cassidy over the International Championship. In the interview, Moxley also spoke about 2025, and after his planned elevation this year, intends to become a wholly different performer next year. He said, "I feel like I can feel it, I can sense it, I can visualize it. I don't think people are expecting that and are wanting to already write off my character or place me in where exactly I am. And I don't necessarily like that. Maybe I fail miserably, but this year will be an exercise in me trying to go even further and get even better. And hopefully at the end of 2024, if you want to measure it by that is 2025, I'll be a completely different wrestler at a completely different level." Jon Moxley has some big plans for the future, and AEW will no doubt give him the platform to evolve, and we're not sure if the same could have been said had he remained in WWE. But what do you think of all this? What would you like this new level of Jon Moxley to look like? Let us know in the comments section below. As we all know, Max Caster isn't afraid to stir up some controversy when it comes to his freestyle barbs, and this week, the Acclaimed member caught some heat, though this time online. When a fan suggested a dream four-way which includes the Acclaimed, FTR, Big Bill and Ricky Starks, and the Dudleys, Caster responded saying Bully Ray has to pay his dues first. Caster said that Bully has a lot of dues to pay before he steps foot in my locker room, and this caught the attention of Bully Ray himself. In a tweet of his own, Ray said that none of the young boys in AEW have paid their dues, adding that this is a problem and warned Caster that he'd see you soon. In all likelihood, Caster doesn't actually believe Bully hasn't paid his dues, and these comments were somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but could they lead to an actual match? After Impact 1000 in September, the Dudleys said they'd be taking certain in-ring bookings, so perhaps we'll see the legendary tag team in an AEW ring after all. At the Royal Rumble, Logan Paul will defend the US Championship against Kevin Owens in what will be only the 9th professional match in the career of the Maverick. Paul is working hard to make sure he's ready for the match, and according to PW Insider Elite, the Maverick has been training with Cameron Grimes in Puerto Rico to prepare for his title defense. Grimes is highly regarded by Triple H and other officials, but hasn't been seen on WWE television for a while, though he did lose to Gable Steveson in a recent dark match. Logan Paul and Kevin Owens have been embroiled in a bitter feud over the past few weeks, and when the pair came to blows last Friday, it was the social media sensation who was standing tall. As for Grimes, he recently made his debut on SmackDown after being called up from NXT, and while his time on the main roster hasn't been the best so far, his work with Paul won't go unnoticed. As we reported recently, indie wrestler Francisco Ciatso died at the age of 48 of congestive heart failure, and now a GoFundMe has been created to support his family. The campaign aims to support his wife in arranging a funeral/memorial benefiting the remarkable person he was, and was launched by the WWN Training Center and Full Impact Pro Promotion. Ciatso's wrestling career was featured in the 2019 documentary Journeyman, which won Best Documentary at the Los Angeles Film Awards that year. The fund has already raised over $8,000 in a heartwarming sign of generosity, and we're continuing to wish the Ciatso family the very best at this sad time. Now, last week's Raw didn't go how Jinder Mahal had hoped, as he failed to become World Heavyweight Champion, but Mahal did end last week on a high. At the WWE Live event Saturday night in Montgomery, Alabama, Mahal defeated Ricochet, and in doing so, broke a streak of his that had been going on for over 5 years. Mahal's victory over the former Intercontinental and US champion marks Jinder's first victory at a live event in 1,870 days, with his previous win coming at an event in December 2018. That show saw Mahal beat Kurt Hawkins, Heath Slater, and Rhino, all of whom are no longer in WWE, in a four-way, so this Saturday's win was a long time coming for the modern-day Maharaja. Last year, WWE officially merged with UFC with the launch of TKO Group Holdings, but despite this, it was an AEW star who had their presence felt at last weekend's UFC 297 event. UFC middleweight Chris Curtis made a notable entrance for his bout against Marc-Andre Baralt as he walked to the cage to Metalingus, the theme song of Adam Copeland. Curtis got a big pop as fans recognized the theme and would go on to defeat his opponent in a split decision to start 2024 off on a positive note. Wrestling themes in UFC is nothing new, as the theme songs for Kurt Angle, Triple H, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and other wrestlers have been used at events in the past. Now fans can add Adam Copeland's name to that list, and Curtis didn't need any of the Ultimate Opportunist's underhanded tactics to score a win in the Octagon last week. Speaking of theme songs, Nick Nemeth used Here to Show the World for years during his time in WWE, and it appears that he's not given up on that particular song just yet. Nemeth recently competed at WWC's Euphoria event in Puerto Rico and used his WWE theme song, and was hyped up at ringside by fellow WWE alum Primo Colon. While Nemeth used his theme at this event, odds are that WWE will take notice if he uses the theme on a larger scale, like in TNA or New Japan, so don't expect to hear the song in either promotion. Nick Nemeth has dubbed himself the wanted man of wrestling, and with the amount of bookings and intrigue he's been receiving, the former world champion is certainly living up to that moniker. TNA news now, as the Hard to Kill pay-per-view was a roaring success for the promotion, and with some huge plans in motion, the company is making a lot of strides in the wrestling world. These big moves come at a time when many feel that AEW has lost its edge somewhat, and there is a possibility that Tony Khan's promotion could slip to third place in the wrestling hierarchy. After leaving WWE in 2007, Booker T would make an impact in TNA wrestling, and during his Hall of Fame podcast was asked about TNA potentially overtaking AEW. He said, I don't know. I think being a number 3 is pretty good, if you do it right. I don't think they should think past what they're doing or anything like that, and try to think about trying to be number 2 or number 1. I just think they need to be thin, and I think that people will love it. Just because I say that, because when I was back there in 2009, 2010, whatever it was, 2010, the crowd was crazy. They loved some TNA. There was a buzz around TNA at that time, so if they could just get back to that, I think they'll be okay. From Nick Nemeth to Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada to Zack Sabre Jr., TNA has been delivering a lot of big stars, and could they one day reclaim the number 2 spot in wrestling? Time will tell. It was in December that Kevin Dunn officially left WWE, ending his lengthy tenure in the company's media department that began before the very first WrestleMania. For a time, Dunn was the most powerful name in WWE not attached to the McMahon family, but more has come to light about Dunn's tenure as part of the promotion. Fightful Select is now reporting from a source that Dunn was involved in many aspects of WWE's production, including graphics, lighting, camera, audio, pyro, and video, just to name a few. Dunn wasn't difficult to work with, but he had high expectations of everyone working under him and wasn't afraid to give feedback when he thought something could be better. It was also confirmed that Triple H took control of the broadcast for the end of WWE Survivor Series War Games, which featured the return of CM Punk, as Dunn wasn't available for the show. Despite what fans have claimed, Dunn actually got along well with Triple H, Bruce Pritchard, and the other segment producers, and there wasn't any power struggle taking place. Dunn was always concerned about the safety of everyone working, and an example given was Cody Rhodes' WrestleMania 38 entrance, which marked his return to the company. Dunn made the call to delay the pyro to make sure the camera crew were clear from getting hit, showing that he wanted to make sure that safety was ensured for everyone, talent or not. It was certainly a shock to see Kevin Dunn leave WWE so abruptly last year, and while the company had hoped on him staying till WrestleMania, Dunn is ready to leave his time in WWE behind. For years, the careers of Bayley and Mercedes Moné were intertwined, either as opponents or as allies, and while they are no longer in the same company, the pair remain very close. At TNA Hard to Kill, the pair watched their fellow friend Trinity defend the Knockouts Championship, and the pair wore all black, beanies, and sunglasses to try and be discreet. On Twitter, CM Punk had some gentle ribbing for the pair, sharing photos of the two in their covert attires, and said that he'd caught 2 hooligans stealing catalytic converters in his neighborhood. Many fans are eager to see Mercedes Moné back in WWE, which could happen down the line, and if she does, odds are she'll be wearing a more vibrant outfit than her undercover look from Hard to Kill.